I cried when the Emperor died. Not because of his death, but rather because I got kicked in my left kidney. If you've ever been kicked there before, you know how painful it can be. If not, like in my case, then you get to discover a whole new experience in gut-wrenching agony. I doubled down and muttered the first thing that came to mind. I think it was space manatees don't exist or something along those lines. I wasn't thinking properly. I had, like I mentioned, been kicked in the kidney. Tears ran down my face as I clutched my guts. It wasn't so much the emotional kind of crying, although I was quite emotionally attached to my organs. We had a long history together. "You're in Empire territory," the punter said, standing over me. "You watch your mouth if you don't want to get your teeth kicked in." It was built like a Type 6 transporter ship, all bulges and asymmetrical chunks of metal sticking out at places with no consideration for the loss of aesthetics. "That's not where my teeth are," I mumbled, trying to play off the kick, but failing miserably. Getting on my feet used to be such an easy task. I hoped the damage would be permanent. "Say again?" the kicking enthusiast asked. Lucky for me, his companions dragged him away, pointing out that it wasn't worth getting thrown in the can for some unaffiliated worm. Their words, not mine. "The locals here sure are friendly," I grunted as I lifted myself and sat back down on the stool. The news feed filled every screen of the tavern, reporting on Emperor Henry Duval's assassination. I had not been sitting in the bar longer than 10 minutes before an ill-timed comment awarded me the warm welcome from the locals. There was a new personal record. The old spacer sitting beside me chuckled. "Probably shouldn't talk lightly about the Emperor dying then. This is Empire space after all." "Empire, Federation, what's the difference?" a woman across the bar said. "The only difference it makes is what they consider illicit, so smugglers can make more money bringing it in. The only important thing is profits." I raised my glass to that and nodded. The motion made me wince in pain. I wondered if I could get my kidney replaced, preferably for one that didn't resort to blinding pain when blunt force was applied to it. "I'll drink to that. I'll risk a fine if it means a bit more cash for transporting the same stinking garbage from one system to the next." The woman looked at me knowingly. "You looking for a job?" she asked. "I don't know. Are you system security? You have to tell me if you are. It wasn't some imperial decree by Lady Aisling Duval, wasn't it?" The woman just laughed, stood up, and motioned for me to follow. "My name is Kyria. I'm not with the authorities. But if you were system security, I would have a different job to offer you. I facilitate things like that," she said as I limped along. Pain was subsiding, but not nearly fast enough. I wondered if I had organ damage and if my insurance would cover it. Probably not. She made her way to the back of the bar, towards a table with what looked like a particularly ugly goblin absorbed in a screen. She took a seat beside the creature and gestured to the chair opposite her. "This is Kaneko. Kaneko here has a special request," she said, introducing the goblin who turned out not to be a goblin, but a diminutive person who would not win a beauty contest in any system explored so far. Kaneko lifted his huge goggled eyes from the screen and stared at me. "Most fortunate," Kaneko beamed at me. The gesture seemed to shift the abundant wrinkles and creases that covered his face. I wasn't sure if he was very old or just weirdly crumpled all over. "Orbiter or from a planet? Never mind, no need to answer. You know where most of our animals originated from, right?" He framed it as a question, but it did not seem he expected an answer. He didn't wait for one either. "Earth! Well, many of them, or variations of what we have now." Yeah, everyone knew the pre-spacefaring history one way or another. Of how early humans had thrown organic life at every rock they deemed halfway habitable once they managed to escape the single planet they lived in. How they built stations and outposts in every system they thought they could squeeze some resources out of. Something we still do. Ask an explorer, you can't get a moment of peace and quiet in space unless you fly out millions of light years away. And even then, you will probably still run into some unsanctioned outpost with some half-crazed scientists researching rocks and alternative uses for them. We don't really think about Earth anymore. Kind of like how we don't think about being descended from apes either. We know it, just don't like to bring it up. It's our embarrassing formative years. Not that we ever stopped embarrassing ourselves. It's easier to pretend we were never tree-dwelling monkeys stuck in a single planet flinging poop at each other. Makes carrying out our current questionable actions and attitudes a bit easier. I heard an old pilot say that Those who don't remember the past are condemned to repeat it. I think repeat it on purpose. Most animals, from what I had heard, did not take so well to being blasted off planet. The majority found their new accommodations unacceptable to the point of death. Those who survived went on to destroy as much of the new environments as possible before people got the chance to figure out just what the hell was going on. I think they'd been watching us and learned a trick or two. After a couple of tries, the smart people in charge of animal relocation carried out treatments, genetic modifications, experiments, selective breeding, you name it. With that done, put them in habitat planets, space station ecosystems, orbital zoos, and, from my personal experience, the menus of most street food stalls. Yeah, I've read a book or two. Flying in space can get boring sometimes. Kaneko carried on, speaking faster and with growing emphasis. Now, think of the Severus Plague, running rampant over so many systems. How is it that it only affects humans? No animal has any sort of infection, not even a similar kind of disease. What do you think that is? No idea, I'm not a scientist, I answered, as if I needed to clarify that. Are you a scientist? You don't look like a scientist. More like a science enthusiast, Kiera said, grinning. Either way, he's paying good credits. She typed a number on her datapad. A large number. For a smuggling run? I asked. Sure, just tell me what you need and where to get it. Get your people to have the cargo ready to load, and when I get to the station, I'll pick it up and bring it fast as I can. Well, it won't be quite as straightforward as that, Karia said, her ever-present smirk taking a slightly serious shade. Don't actually have people there. You will have to procure the package yourself. It's quite the small package, Kaneko chimed in before I could open my mouth in protest. And quite accessible too. All you need to do is put on a lab coat, walk in, walk out. Simple as that. Won't even take space in your cargo hold. That means nothing will show up on your security scans. Makes your job so much easier, doesn't it? I will walk you through it, Kira said. It's a scientific outpost called the Hughes Gateway. I will provide you with the appropriate credentials. You go in the lab, pick up the case Kaneko needs, and fly out. Easier than your typical smuggling run. If my head were equipped with all the systems and sensors my ship had, every single alarm and warning light would be going off all at once. A job with these kind of caveats, yeah, it warrants some warnings. But, even behind the controls and with the safety measures and contingencies of a spacecraft, I found myself repeatedly in trouble, so I don't see how alarms would have made any difference anyway. Karia emanated an ease and confidence, and even Kaneko had a charm to his small stature and crinkles and creases. It was just another job, a little more elaborate. I figured, what's the worst that could happen?